There have been quite a few characters on The Rookie that have completely overstayed their welcome. Some of them were brought back for no reason. Others should have been taken out of the show years ago. And today, we're going to talk about 7 characters on The Rookie that should have been taken out of the show way before their last appearance. As well as we'll talk about when exactly their welcome started to become overstayed. I think one of the biggest examples of a character overstaying their welcome is Elijah Stone. A character who, when he was first introduced at the beginning of Season 4, seemed like he would be a really interesting long-term villain. One that had a lot of depth and could have caused a world of hurt for the main cast for a good chunk of the season. And that was true, until it wasn't. And that is completely because he stayed for far longer than he should have. Elijah was added at the height and climax of the La Fiera plotline, another long-term villain of the show. When La Fiera's son got killed, she snapped, and she kidnapped Angela Lopez and took her to Guatemala. She wanted Lopez's baby, and she was going to get it in the most psychotic way possible. She could have done so much less than she planned on doing, but the sheer rage and grief that she was feeling at the time amplified what she felt was necessary. The problem was that since the LAPD had no way to find where La Fiera was taking Lopez, they were losing valuable time and began to become worried about if she was going to be safe, especially after they witnessed Jackson get shot in the back earlier in the episode. But one person who clearly was feeling the pain even more was Wesley, her husband. He was willing to do anything he could to find her, and that included talking to none other than Elijah Stone. Elijah had a lot of connections internationally, and he had his way of finding people. Wesley came to him desperate and needing help. Elijah was willing to help Wesley find where Lopez was and get an exact location for her, but it came at a price.
But you know what it's gonna cost you.
I do.
For me to say it.
I become a crooked lawyer for you.
Out of pure desperation, Wesley agreed. Luckily, because of Elijah's information, they were able to save her. But Wesley had no idea what he signed up for. Very shortly after, Elijah came to him ready to claim his part of the deal. And from that point on, Wesley acted as his crooked lawyer, or at least he tried. He was having moral troubles with the arrangement and tried to keep everything legal, and when that didn't work, he attempted to wiggle his way out of it. Unfortunately, this only works temporarily, as when Elijah comes back in Season 5, the case that Wesley and the DA's office were trying to build was not enough to keep him locked away. This was also the time that we meet Monica Stevens, who we will get back to later. The rest of the 5th season is spent torturing Wesley, getting him disbarred, threatening his family, and so much more. After a while, Lopez had enough, and with Harper's help, they managed to interrupt a drug deal going on between him and Abigail, La Fiera's right-hand woman, and they're able to take him into custody once and for all. But this doesn't mean that Wesley was safe. Elijah had sent a hitman after Wesley, but luckily, thanks to Charlie Bristow, this does not work. And as of the end of Season 5, we don't hear from him again. Now, when did he start overstaying his welcome? I'd say it was pretty clear. When he came back in Season 5. He was a great villain for the first half of Season 4, and this is how they could have kept him. But now, not only did he come back just to torture Wesley for a whole season, but his extended plotline still has elements of it that are still in the show to this day. Once again, we'll come back to that later. First, I want to talk about a pretty controversial pick for this list, Skip Tracer Randy. Randy is a pretty hit or miss character within the Rookie community. Some fans absolutely adore him, and others are in the Randy Biggest Haters Club. But these groups aren't black and white. There are people who used to love him that slowly started to dislike him more when he would appear. When he was first introduced, he was just a voice on the phone. This was Season 4, Episodes 10 and 11, Heartbeat, and Endgame. But then shortly later, in Episode 14, Longshot, he appears for the first time, and we see Flula Borg in all of his glory. Since then, he's appeared once per season, which isn't many episodes, so why do some people think he overstayed his welcome? Well, this is because there's people that believed he should have just stayed as a voice over the phone, and that when you add all of his physical mannerisms, he becomes a very annoying character. Personally, I don't agree with this sentiment. I think he's great in small doses, exactly the way that the show treats him now. But let me know in the comments what camp you guys are a part of. Remember when I mentioned that a part of the Elijah Stone arc is still on the show today? Well, we're about to start talking about her now. Monica Stevens, a character who was introduced when Elijah was brought back in the middle of season 5, and now almost 3 entire seasons later, she still hasn't left our screens. And I don't think it's far-fetched to say that Monica Stevens is the biggest example of a character who overstayed her welcome. At first, when she was introduced into the show, she was Elijah Stone's new crooked lawyer to replace Wesley. We find out that Monica is actually Wesley's ex-fiancée. This detail doesn't mean anything towards the main storyline, but it does have some effect every once in a while, like when Monica and Wesley discuss cases together. But eventually, Elijah has enough of Monica's crap and threatens her. Unfortunately for him, Monica had the plan to throw him under the bus, and that is exactly what happens. You would think that this is where her story would end, but nope, it does not. She is brought back in season 5, episode 20, STR, as Randy's lawyer when he was arrested. This appearance wasn't so bad, albeit unnecessary. It was after this that her welcome was overstayed, and the longer she stayed on, the more overstayed her welcome was. She appeared in almost every single episode during season 6, increasingly becoming more and more ridiculous of a character. She started out as a crooked lawyer, and by the end of the 6th season, she became a centimillionaire criminal ringleader that had dozens of people underneath her. Huh? How does that pipeline just happen? Then, she comes back in season 7, episode 11, Speed, and we find out that she's infiltrating the government with their keycards in order to get classified information. Then, she uses this information in the season 7 finale to get immunity. Why did the show think this plotline was a good idea? She could have easily been taken out after her appearance in STR, have her as a prominent character in the 5th season, and then move on to the next big serial killer or something like that. But no, we get Elijah Stone, but twice as long, 3 times as ridiculous, and 4 times as annoying. And I know I say this almost every time I talk about her in a video, but I am hoping that her storyline ends very quickly into season 8, or I think she's going to be a genuine issue for the show going forward. Now for another character that is kind of controversial, but I have the opposite opinion as I do with Randy on this one. We're talking about Raj Bronson, aka the singer of Daddy Cop. He was introduced specifically for a one-time gag with the Daddy Cop song. Then, once the audience ate it up, they brought him back the next season for the show's 100th episode with an even bigger and better version of the song. Both appearances were beloved by the fanbase, and Raj was now cemented in rookie history. But he wasn't actually named Raj yet by this point. He was unnamed because he was just there for the gag, and that's it. That is until season 7, episode 10, Chaos Agent, where he was introduced as Selena's new boyfriend, a struggling musician who makes music about everybody that he meets. And this episode was his downfall. He wasn't supposed to be a character in the first place, let alone one that would go on to appear as often as Raj does. He doesn't even really have a reason to be there anyways. Any scene that he's in could have been made without him. Like when they went to see Rachel in season 7, episode 13, 3 Billboards, or with the dinner in episode 16, The Return, where it could have just been Selena. Ever since he was added as an actual character and not just a gag, he has added no substance to the show whatsoever. Like I said, Raj is similar to Randy, where there's a camp of people who love him and a camp of people who hate him, and I'm proud to be a part of the latter group. But once again, let me know in the comments what you think of Raj and if he overstayed his welcome. Now, I want to talk about the character that I think has overstayed their welcome for the longest out of the entire show, and that is James Murray, the husband and biggest pain in the butt of Nyla Harper. I've talked a lot on this channel about how he was introduced in the beginning of season 3 and his attachment to the Doug Stanton racism plotline, so let's just skip ahead and talk about his role afterwards. I want to start by saying that I completely understand his role within season 3. The whole season was about racism and discrimination, and his place as the local community center worker who wanted change makes total sense to me. But then he started dating Harper in season 4, and this is where things got weird. I don't think that this initially was a bad thing. I mean, think about it. Wesley started dating Lopez, and he was anti-police as well. Yet they worked out just fine and are one of the strongest couples in the entire show. But as time continued on, it was very clear that their relationship was not going to work. Unlike Wesley, who not only was able to make his relationship work with Lopez, also wanted change and sought after it, James did neither of these things. Multiple times throughout the second half of the current run of the show, James has made it very clear that he is not going to put their differences aside and would continue to be a massive pain in Nyla's butt. There is a lot of examples of this, but let's talk about the biggest one, which was Season 7, Episode 2, The Watcher, when James hosted a community meeting involving police reform. And while Nyla initially accepted, thinking that it would just be a few people, she gets home and is ambushed by a couple of dozen or so people being extremely hostile towards her. She had to run out of there because she felt so pressured. This happened in their own house. James brought a very unsafe environment into the safety of her home. And this was a big no-no for the fan base. I think that when it comes to James overstaying his welcome, I'd say that was probably halfway through season 4. I feel like Nyla and his relationship should have not lasted very long due to their inherent differences, but as soon as Nyla got pregnant, it solidified them. This should have never been added, and he should have not continued to appear for another 3.5 seasons afterwards. Next up, I want to talk about a character that overstayed her welcome all because of only one episode. One that happened 4 seasons after her previous episode. If she had not returned for this episode, she would have still been a character that people loved. One that people would have remembered fondly. I'm of course talking about Abigail Tierney, the ex-fiance of Henry Nolan. She initially was introduced in season 2 as a new love interest for Henry, and she and him were very cute from the start. They treated each other well, and Abigail took on an interest in what John does involving his policing, including possibly wanting to go down that career path herself. But then, at the end of season 3, after the episode Braveheart, involving Henry's big surgery, we don't hear from her again. Not only does she not appear again, but she is also never mentioned by Henry in his later appearances. It's assumed that they had broken up, but we had no confirmation. This is where her story was finished. Until season 7, episode 15, A Deadly Secret, when she got her own documentary episode about her failed movies in her documentary that got her stuck in Westview Hospital. This episode completely switched up her character. She turned from a sweet character who was very intelligent and had a good head on her shoulders into an oblivious, stupid character who had no boundaries with what she was willing to do to get what she wanted. There was no reason to butcher her character like this, as they didn't need an existing character to fill this role for the documentary episode, as the first documentary episode from season 3 was featuring a character that we had never seen before, but they thought it was a smart idea to have her instead. What a waste of such a wholesome guest character. Now we're going to talk about a character that is a little bit more complicated. For us to talk about how Simone Clark overstayed her welcome, I have to preface it by saying that I am not going to be including specific Rookie Feds episodes within this explanation. I think Feds is an entity of its own, and that's going to be very clear later on in this section. Anyways, Simone was introduced back in season 4, episode 19, Simone, when the Rookie did their backdoor pilot episodes for the Rookie Feds, which was this one and the one after it. They included her in these episodes in order to build up hype for her character and her new show. But the fans didn't exactly like her. They found her to be pretty annoying and didn't like her unprofessionalism. But after those 2 episodes, she went on to be a part of the Rookie Feds. So if she had just been on those 2 episodes of the main show, she wouldn't have been so bad. The issue was that she wasn't just a part of those 2 episodes. She came back for a few episodes within the 5th season of the main show. These episodes were actually crossover episodes with the Rookie Feds, which meant that in order for you to get the full plot and understanding for what's happening, you had to watch both. This also means that we got Simone back on the main show again. Yay! Needless to say, considering people weren't a fan of Simone or the spinoff in general, they weren't going to like these episodes either. Part of that was because since most of the audience didn't watch Feds, we missed key information about the plots, But also without the context of watching Feds, Simone's presence in the main episodes don't really make any sense or have any purpose. She just continued to be annoying and unprofessional. Luckily, the showrunners got the hint, and once the spinoff was canceled, they never brought her back. But man, they really laid her on thick. Those were just some of the characters on The Rookie that overstayed their welcome. Make sure to hype up this video if you're on mobile to show me some love, and subscribe to see more videos like this one. Thanks for watching.